I wanted to now start moving over to ACL a bit, and one of the things we will kind of go through various sets of these data files. We will take a question first, a polling question in the next few minutes, but then we'll kind of move into just going through each of the data files and fields, as I did want to walk you through that. And then we're going to follow that by talking through the various functions that you would use in ACL for processing. So, just kind of walking through these next few slides, the data import in ACL has a variety of imports. The ones that I'm going to talk about today are really just of the disk nature, the ones that are on your hard drive. There are others that are things like ODBC, and the problem with that ODBC, the open nature of that, a lot of times departments will not allow that to take place. And with that said, though, other products though out there that are quite useful, especially in ACL, is SAP's Direct Link, which we won't be talking about today, but it's something where it does allow you to directly link and get data from SAP. But again, it's outside of the scope of what we'll talk about today. Of the different file types, the fixed length file type is one of the best for ACL, not only because ACL tends to turn everything into a fixed length file anyway. I mean, it by its nature, it likes to do that, and that's one reason. But another reason is that it leads to consistency down the road. So a year from now, when you get the data file again, if it is fixed length, you can just, again, kind of bolt it in and run it again. And hence a good reason. Last reason is a lot of times the fixed length files are raw data files that are coming off the system and are more, let's say pure of data. Tabbed delimited files allow you are basically delimited by either a tab or a comma or a pipe, and what you're going to then do is kind of break that up, and ACL is going to convert that tab file into a fixed length file. Excel files, I actually don't generally take Excel files and go right into ACL with them. What I do is I do save them to a tab delimited file and then bring it in that way. I do find it usually goes a little bit quicker, and I find that the data wizard of ACL tends to overthink Excel a little too much at times, and I find the pure nature of the tab delimit, the ASCII tab delimit, is much better. So I just rather get a tab delimited file, I guess, or convert over to that. And I should say that is even true for Access, and that should be on that slide, Excel and Access. I will convert over to tab delimited files, generally speaking. We'll take a look at report files as well, which are that one that we showed a few minutes ago. It had headers and footers and such. And I won't be showing the PDF file today, but in basic terms, the PDF file works the same way of the report file, and I have to say I think it's even worse a lot of times, just from a data quality point of view, that a PDF is I believe, an image, and because it's an image, you're not ever really sure whether or not the data is going to be as pure or laid out the way you want it to be. So just going through a couple of other slides from a data definition point of view, kind of getting the high levels, and then we'll dive in and just start defining files. I find this is helpful for a lot of people, especially starting out in ACL, that a lot of people tend to define dates as ASCII fields and tend to define numerics or numbers as ASCII fields, and vice versa. They'll take an ASCII field like check number, something that really should be a character-based number, and therefore more like text or ASCII. These are all the synonyms for ASCII. So check number a lot of times will be defined as a numeric, and you need to kind of convert that back over. And I'm actually going to show a trick on how to fix for that, and basically You can kind of trick for that using Excel, or I believe you could try to use your text editor as well, but Excel works a little bit easier. It's a little cleaner. And let's kind of go through the chart, though. The first question you should ask is the field a date? And something that, month, day, year, something like that. And if so, yes, define it as a date format. We will show you that. Next is, do you add or subtract the field ever? Would you? I mean, I guess ever. You might do it for a check number to look for gaps or something, but it's something you'd almost never, ever do. You're using the check number really to give you information about that payment, and it's more of a text information field. If you do, so everything generally is defined as character. There are a few numbers and there are a few dates, but a lot of times most of the things are characters. If it is a numeric, what a good kind of trick is to determine whether or not it is something that you should define as a numeric format or print format. And I'm going to show you an ACL where ACL print format, which is otherwise known as formatted in ACL, so we'll show you what that is. There's differences in the language, so I want you to understand that. So print is formatted, and then numeric is unformatted number, and you'll see that as we define that. The numeric, what you're trying to do is impute decimal places into the number, whereas the print format, the decimal places are generally there. They may not always be there, but they're generally there. So again, we'll show you some examples of this, but I wanted to give you the high level, and hopefully this chart, which if you don't have the slides, you will be getting slides and files. This chart hopefully helps you as well when you're going through and doing your definition process. ACL's data definition wizard, some people use it, some people don't. I do use it quite a bit and get it to a point, and then I kind of, sometimes do bypass some of what ACL is asking for in the wizard, but I use about 80% of it. I find that it sometimes isn't always right. It makes guesses about the data, and those guesses aren't always right, but it can be easily fixed, so it's not something that you usually have to spend a lot of time on. I think that you want to consider making sure that you set up your fields with obviously reasonable lengths, and as best as you can. We'll talk about that, and that really means when we'll talk about that. It's basically keeping your file sizes smaller, so that you don't have fields that are 300 characters big, unless you really need it. You don't usually need that many characters, and it just leads to a much larger data file. So by defining it reasonable length, it helps. You might want to define overlapping fields, and we'll talk about how you might have a supplier number, and also have a part of that supplier number tell you what company it's from, and this would be a way to kind of do an overlapping field. And we have to talk about dates, because ACL has a way of defining dates and formatting dates, but sometimes people don't realize how it's to be formatted, and it can get confusing, and definitely something that we want to walk through as well.